All right, so this is just a quick video to show you in case you didn't catch it in class or during the lesson the first time, but there's a couple different ways that you have to take care of the absolute value. So there's a very basic way. So this is very basic. Okay. So basic is when you have, for example, if you have an absolute value all by itself, like that. Right, so let's say absolute value of x plus 7, and that's going to equal, let's say, 10, right? Okay. So that's very basic because if you look, okay, the absolute value is already all by itself. See how it's absolute value all by itself, and that's the only thing on the left hand side. So that's very basic. And when that happens, you can just go ahead and write this two different ways, like how I showed some of you guys in class. Right? So the one way you're going to write it with without the absolute value, because we're saying that the inside is equal to a value of negative 10, right? Because if we were to put negative 10 right here, right, the absolute value of negative 10 is equal to 10. So that works. So that's why we can say that the inside part could be equal to negative 10. And then we can also say that the inside part, the x plus 7, oops, the x plus 7 could also be equal to 10. So we're just saying that this part here, the x plus 7, instead of writing x plus 7, if that was absolute value of 10, it would still be equal to 10. So that's why we're able to say that that inside part is also equal to 10. So that absolute value gives you two different values that the inside could be equal to. All right. So all you have to do is just solve each problem for the x. And like how I showed some of you guys, you can just do it the same way. For example, if you're adding 7 right here, all you have to do is subtract 7. And by doing that, this plus 7 and that minus 7 is going to eliminate each other, and you're left with an answer of x equals, you got to figure this out, negative 10 minus 7 is negative 17. That is one answer. Another answer is if you do the same thing, you see how on this side we're doing minus 7 minus 7. Well, you're doing the same thing, minus 7 minus 7. Okay, and this is going to allow you to eliminate the positive 7 and the negative 7 just like the other side. But now you're going to be getting an answer of x equals, and then this is a different answer. It's not going to be negative 17 or even positive 17. It's going to be 10 minus 7, which comes out to be 3. Right, so that is your second answer. So x equals negative 17 and x equals 3. So that is on a more basic level. Okay, so that would be very similar to, let's say, problems 5, 6, and 7. Right? You notice? So 5, 6, and 7 would be probably something similar to the basic level. Now, number 11 and 17, those are going to be a little bit more intermediate or a little bit more advanced, right? We'll call those intermediate. Okay, so we're going to go down a little bit. So we'll call those intermediate. Intermediate basically means medium level. So this is medium difficulty, right? Intermediate. So with that, you do have, so for example, you do have your absolute value, but you also may have something on the outside, okay? So for example, on one of them, you might have something like, plus, 5 on the outside. And in the inside, you may have your own things that are inside the absolute value. So for example, we might have something like 3x plus 1, like that. And then so the absolute value of 3x plus 1, and then on the outside you still have plus 5, and let's say that's equal to 7, right? So We'll try this one out. So this would be more intermediate level, where you have, just like how we did it earlier, where you have an absolute value along with something that's on the outside. And right, and that, as of now, that's a little bit more basic. Okay, that's why it's called intermediate. And we're only gonna add 5 on the outside of it. Notice that it's still on the left-hand side, the plus 5. So that means that we are gonna have to go ahead and try to get rid of that plus 5 first and foremost. Okay. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, before we even split it up, like notice how the top one, okay, we did the split up. We did a red because it's the absolute value is equal to 10, and we did a blue because the absolute value is equal to 10. Also, we're gonna make one of them, the red equal -10, the blue equals 10. So on this one, okay, we're gonna do the, we're gonna take care of the absolute value, okay, which means that for now we have a absolute value of plus 5. So that means we're gonna have to get rid of that plus 5 first. Okay, so to get rid of plus 5, you have to do a -5. So before you can even do, before you can even worry about or take care of your absolute value, you got to make sure it's totally by itself. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract 5 from both sides. By doing that, I will eliminate the plus 5 minus 5. And now I will just totally have absolute value of 3x plus 1. And then now it's equal to, and 7 minus 5 is going to give me 2. Right now, now I'm at this point where I have an absolute value by itself, and it's equal to 2. Now I'm able to say, okay, now my inside is going to equal -2. So I'm going to write it as my inside 3x plus 1. That's going to equal -2 because it is, because if I'm able to put -2 in here, if the whole thing becomes -2, the absolute value of -2 is still 2. So that still does work. So that's why I'm able to say it's equal to -2. Okay. And also, my inside 3x, sorry, I wanted black on that. My inside, my 3x plus 1 is also could be equal to +2. Because I'm saying that if the inside right here, if it all look like 2 like that, absolute value of 2 is still 2. So it all still works. Okay, and that's why I'm able to write down 2, and I'm also able to write down -2. Okay, and just like how I showed you earlier, you can just solve both each of them separately, or you can do them at the same time. Like this one, I'm going to show you that I can do them both at the same time. For example, if I start off, I'm going to go and try to get rid of that plus 1, so it's going to be -1, -1. And over here, I can do the same thing. I can do the same thing, -1, -1, because I'm actually doing the same inverse operation. They're both plus 1, so I'm going to do -1. That's going to get rid of it. Plus 1, I'm going to do -1, and it's going to get rid of it. So I'm able to do this, and I'm going to be able to do both of these at the same time. So 3x, and -2 minus 1 is -3. Right, over here, 3x, I'm just going to copy it down, and 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the next inverse, right? So I'm going to try to get rid of that times 3. So I'm going to divide it by 3. So I'm going to do this side, I'm going to divide it by 3 and divide it by 3. And at the same time, this is still inverse times 3. So I'm going to go ahead and divide it by 3. Same move as the left-hand side. By doing this, I'm able to get rid of the times 3. So the 3 right here and 3 right here is going to cancel. And over here as well, I'm going to do both at the same time. So I'm going to be left with x. You're going to figure this out. -3 divided by 3 gets you -1. That's my answer. Okay, over here, 1 divided by 3, and that just ends up being 1 divided by 3, or you can call it 0.333333 with a line over it. Okay, or you can call it 1/3 if you like. Right, so that's intermediate level. Now there's another intermediate level, right? Another example. Right, we can also have either a multiplication or a division besides what we just had right here. We had a what do we have? We had a addition, right? So if we had a multiplication, we would have to divide it. If we have a division, we would have to multiply it, Right, so let me just show you two more examples and then we'll call it. So this last example that we did right here, okay, this intermediate, the first one, this would be something similar to number 11 or 17, where you have a -3 or you have a +10 on the outside of it. Okay, so you can do that and work on the number 7 or 10. Okay, and still intermediate level, a little bit more advanced, but we'll say it's still an intermediate level difficulty, right? Is if we have an absolute value. So let's call this, let's do um, 5x minus 1, right? So we have an absolute value, but sometimes we may have a multiplication on the outside of it. So let's say 2, right? So it's 2 times 5x minus 1 in absolute value, and that's going to be equal to, let's say this is going to be 6, right? So again, before you even do the split, do the red and blue, like the last one, or red and blue like the basic one. Before you can even do anything like that, you're going to want to do, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to make sure that the absolute value, this thing right here, is totally by itself. And if it's not by itself, you cannot do the split. So before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 2. And by doing that, I'm allowing myself to eliminate the 2. And that's going to allow me to have just an absolute value of 5x minus 1 equals 6 divided by 2 is going to be 3. Then now I do have an absolute value all by itself. And now I can go ahead and write it two different ways, right? The first way is going to be 5x, the inside part, is equal to the opposite. And then the second way, 5x minus 1 is going to equal 3. Okay, and just like we said before, this inside could become a -3, or the inside could be a 3, and that will give us the absolute value of 3 anyways. Alright, solving it, and again, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to solve both of them at once. I'm going to go ahead and add 1, and I'm going to go ahead and add 1. Okay, by doing that, I'm going to allow myself to eliminate these and eliminate these. So I will have 5x equals -3 plus 1 is -2. And over here, 5x and 3 plus 1 is going to give me 4. Okay, keep in mind that you will usually not have the same answer. Okay, it's whatever this gives you. Whatever this gives you, you need to have that answer. So just because you have a -2 doesn't mean you automatically have a 2. Okay, you have to kind of go along with what it's asking to do. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get rid of that times 5. So the inverse of times 5 is divided by 5. So to do that, and same thing times 5 here, right? It doesn't change. And you're going to have to do inverse, which is divided by 5. And by doing that, this allows me to eliminate my 5 and eliminate my 5. And this is going to give me x is -2 divided by 5. You can leave it as -2/5. Okay, you can do that. Oops. Or you can actually do -2 divided by 5, which is -0.4. Okay, and that would be one of your answers. Okay, on the other hand, right here, you can do x is 4/5, and you can write that as your answer if you like fractions. I actually really like fractions, right? Or you can write it as x equals, and you can literally do 4 divided by 5, which is 0.8. Okay, I know most of you guys like decimals more, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, we'll do one more intermediate. Okay, again, these are not advanced yet. I mean, they're getting there, right? But they're still intermediate, meaning they're about medium difficulty. So we'll do one more, okay? This one, we'll do a division. So it's going to be very similar to number 18, right? Very similar to number 18. So again, an example of that, okay? You're going to have your absolute value. So we'll make this one simple. We'll say this one is just x plus 1, right? And on the outside, it'd be nice if it was just x plus 1, absolute value. On the outside, it's also going to have, let's say, divided by, uh, I like 5, so divided by 5, right? And that's going to equal, let's go 20. Let's give it a bigger numbers, okay? So this one, you cannot do the red and blue just yet. You can't just do that. You can't divide them, can't split them up because you got to get rid of that divided by 5. Okay, it's not absolute value by itself. So first thing you got to do is you got to do inverse of division by 5. So the opposite of divided by 5 is you're going to multiply by 5. So you multiply by 5. And by doing that, because 5 actually means that it's 5 on top. So when you have that, it's going to allow you to cancel that 5 and that 5, and that will get rid of it. And now you just have absolute value x plus 1. Okay, and now it's finally by itself. Now on the right hand side, you have 20 times 5, which is 100. Okay, now when you look at this, now that your absolute value is by itself, right? Now you can go ahead and split them into two equations. One is, so how absolute value of what would give us 100? Well, it could end up being negative 100, right? If negative 100 was in there, that would mean the absolute value of negative 100 would be 100. So therefore, in here, x plus 1, which is inside the absolute value, is equal, could be equal to negative 100. And that's how we come across that it's going to be negative 100. Okay. Or inside the absolute value, right, it could also be equal to 100 because, and again, the absolute value of 100 is also 100. So if I have the x plus 1 is the same as 100, then that means your absolute value would be 100 also, which will be true. So this allows us to write it down as x plus 1, which is the stuff inside, is the same as 100. And by doing this, we are able to get two different equations from this absolute value. All right, and again, this one's just going to be one step. We're just going to go ahead and solve for x. In this case, we're going to subtract 1. And over here, we're going to subtract 1. We do the same thing. Right? By subtracting 1, allows us to get rid of the plus 1 minus 1 and plus 1 minus 1. And this what comes out to be x is equal to negative 101. And that is your final answer. Or, in this case, x is going to equal 99. And this also comes out to be part of our final answer.